Hey guys, wanted to talk today about um, threat versus mitigation gear and the kind of the in between. What I've said in other videos, threat, balance, and mitigation. And balance is threat is essentially full DPS gear. Um, Balance is kind of a mix of the two. So a good example of that would be Sadist's collar. So when I say mitigation, it doesn't just mean defense rating. Mitigation is because mitigation, all that stuff ties together, and a lot of it's RNG, right? So if you've got 5 or 10% chance to parry and 20% to dodge, and you've got a bunch of defense, and the boss has chances to miss you, that's all still RNG based. You can still get hit, 4 or 5 or 6 times in a row. But the law of averages based on your percentages of, so like right now, if we look down here, with this current gear set, I've got total avoidance of 41%. That doesn't mean that every other swing is going to miss me, but across 2 minute fight or across a long enough timeline, it should average out to be that. I could get 3 dodges in a row, and for that brief period, my avoidance rate was 100%. Right? So, but your stamina is part of your mitigation as well. So don't confuse mitigation and avoidance. Avoidance is, being able to completely avoid an attack, and mitigation is how much damage you can take before you die. Because avoidance too, like let's say, here I've got 40% avoidance. So I've reduced my, show me the bosses. I've reduced my chance to be hit. But let's say I've only got 5k hit points, which I don't. I've got 11,000, There's a metric out there called, I'm not going to be able to think, effective health. So I haven't done the math on this set, and I really don't pay too much attention to effective health because right now I'm in an end game guild that's running Nax. So there's no, I have the best gear in the game, or I have some of the best pieces in the game. There's no other. As you're gearing up, you might want to pay more attention to it. But effective health is essentially how many hits can you take before you die. And what you do is you factor in your avoidance to your health. So yes, you only have, let's say a boss hits for 2,000. Well, then if you do quick math, you could say, well, I can take 6 hits. On the 6th hit, I'm going to die. But that's not true, because you're going to dodge and parry, and the boss is going to miss. According to RNG and according to your percentages, it's going to take probably closer to 12 hits to kill you without a heal. This is without a heal. Because let's say you get hit for 2k, then the boss misses. Then you get hit for 2k, and then you parry, and then you get hit for 2k. It doesn't always work out that way, obviously. But that's what effective health is doing, is it's combining your avoidance and your and your health, basically, to come up with like a mitigation score of not a score, but like an overall effective health rating of 28,000 or whatever the case may be. And as you change your gear, these numbers will change, obviously. So this is my current, I'm using 60 upgrades, and I've used this in past videos, and I'm not going to get into the 60 upgrades website and how to use it, but it's very handy. This is a 4-piece tier 3 setup, and I do have some, these are some what I would consider to be balanced pieces. So Conquerors is balanced. It has strength, stamina, agility, and defense on it, plus some hit. Cloak of the Fallen God is a very good FuryProt cloak. It's not, it's not Crit Fiend, which is defense, dodge, and hit, and stamina. There's really no threat stats on there. So, and I say that this is more balanced because it does have stamina on it. It doesn't have a ton, but it does have some. But because of the agility. The agility, every 20 agility you gain 1% crit as a warrior, but you also gain 1% dodge. So this cloak technically has 2% dodge on it. So it does have some mitigation stats on it, and that would be stamina and dodge. You know, dreadnought, breastplate, dreadnought, bracers. Your weapons really don't matter. I mean, the agility enchant does give me some dodge and some armor, and the weapon itself has stamina and some armor on it. But you're usually, as a FuryProt, you're using your weapons to generate threat, not for mitigation. I'm not swapping weapons for mitigation purposes. Studies, these are very good, balanced. They have defense on them. They have decent amount of stamina, and obviously the agility. Girdle and Mentor, we'll get into that in a little bit. But anyway, this is not a full-blown mitigation set. This is also not a full-blown threat set. So let's say I'm going to go fight Kurinax, or not Kurinax. I'm blanking out. The Sandworm in AQ40. I can't think of what his name is. It's not Kurinax, that's the AQ20 one. So I swapped to my threat gear. My avoidance just dropped by 10%. And my health dropped as well. So my effective health, or my overall mitigation, I've just dropped, and I've traded that for more threat. You're always going to be trading that off. And I've talked about that in other videos as well. So, but these, and again, these are sets of gear. This is some of the best gear in the game. You know, this drops off of Kel'Thuzad. The Cloak of the Fallen God is an item drop off of Cthulhu. A lot of this gear comes from AQ40 and Nax. Some of it comes from MC, like this ring comes from MC, this ring comes from BWL. But for the most part, this is, you know, end game. Their boots are BWL. Everything else is, you know, AQ40 or Nax. And I see and I talk to warriors who are like, why is this good? Why would I wear this ring over like Band of Ikuria or Master Dragon Slayers or Don Julio's, you know, band or whatever? Or you know, why? Or I like wearing Ring of the Dreadnought, you know. And I think the issue is, at least to me, it seems the issue is that when you're looking at pieces of gear, like for example, you look at Plated A-Bomb, and you're like, wow, it gives you 1% hit and 1% crit. That's really good. And 45 strength is really good. Yeah. But you're not, looking at the raw stats, I feel like until you train your brain to look at raw stats the right way, like you just see 45 strength and you're like, wow, that's a lot. That's more than, you know, what is it? Breastplate of Annihilation is only 37. Yeah, but you get 2 attack power for every strength, and with raw stats, they get increased by buffs that increase your overall stats, like Blessing of Kings, like the ZG buff, the heart buff. So a piece of gear that just has attack power on it, which, you know, let's just use it as an example. Like this necklace, right? Has stamina, is the only raw stat this necklace has. Now this necklace is best in slot, but when you're looking at it, you can see it's 26 attack power. If I changed that instead of 26 attack power, if we turned that to the raw stat that was 13 strength, because that's what that would equate to. 13, every point of strength you get 2 attack power, right? So if instead it said 13 strength, 12 stamina, 2% crit, I guarantee there'd be warriors out there who would look at it and not think it's as good as, even though that technically is better, because the green, anything in green, when you're looking at a piece of gear, just think about it this way: anything in green is unaffected by buffs. When this says, you know, 2% crit, if you get Blessing of Kings from Paladin, your crit does go up, but that's only because of your agility going up, not because the crit bonuses are going. Any of those bonuses that are equip stats do not get affected. So this would actually be a much better neck. Not a much better. It would be better if it was 13 strength, 12 stamina, 2% crit, or if it was, you know, something like Circuit of Applied Force, and which is only raw stats. If we applied that to Storm Rage, it would be 13 strength, 12 stamina, 40 agility. Which 40 agility, that's massive. But you would look at that and you probably would think in your brain that doesn't look that great. Maybe that's like something for rogues, you know. But that's the same exact stats just broken down into the raw stats. So when you're gearing your warrior, whether you're DPS or FuryProt or tanking, you know, almost all of my videos are going to be based on tanking. You need to consider the raw stats. Like Helm of Endless Rage is another great example. This has some really great raw stats on it. You know, compared to Lionheart Helm, this is not. Lionheart Helm is not a bad helmet by any stretch of the imagination. 2% hit, 2% crit, 18 strength. That's huge. Especially on bosses. On trash, it's not that great because it doesn't have any stamina, which needs to be a separate consideration. But like if you compare it to something like, you know, Crown of Destruction, which has, you know, a lot of people wear this for DPS, which is fine because it has 2% crit and 44 attack power. But that attack power is not going to get boosted by Kings or the ZG buff. Helm of Endless Rage has 26 strength, so if you multiply that out by 2, that's 52 attack power without any buffs. So 52 attack power versus 44. And you look at Conqueror's Crown. Conqueror's Crown has 29 strength. That's 60 attack power almost. That's 58 attack power. And then the agility. So Conqueror's Crown is very good. And a lot of people wear it DPS and tanks. Even though it's got defense on it, DPS will wear this. Not on bosses. Usually on bosses, like I said, they'll wear Lionheart. But you need to be able to do that conversion in your head. So this helm is almost 60 attack power, and with the 18 agility, that's almost 1% crit and 1% dodge. That's why 2.5 is so good for FuryProt. Because it's all of the raw stats we need to have. It's not defense and dodge. It's not 6 defense, 1% dodge, 1% parry. You know, those would still be decent stats, but not at the expense of taking all the strength away from it. If it was just stamina and a little bit of agi and then, you know, that dodge. Because that agi also gives us crit. Agi is a huge stat for FuryProt. But I wanted to talk through, and for the most part, you know, it's easy. It's easier to understand, you know, what helm do I want? What neck do I want? What cloak do I want? You know, cloaks, there's a lot of cloaks. Concentrated Hatred is another one. This one kind of gets passed over by warriors, I think, in favor of rogues. Because of the hit. We don't need as much hit as warriors. Fury warriors usually have a little bit more hit than tanks, from what I've seen. Rogues love having hit. This is I don't know if this is best in slot for them. I would assume that it is. If it's not, it's very close. But look at it compared to... So Cloak of the Fallen God is considered by most people to be best in slot for FuryProt. But look at it compared to Cloak of Concentrated Hatred, which is the first boss in AQ40. Scarum, which is a very easy boss. It's 10 less agility, the same exact strength, the same exact stamina, and it includes 1% hit. So you're trading off 0.5% dodge, 0.5% crit for 1% hit. These are pretty comparable. Like, yes, I think Cloak of the Fallen God is better, but Concentrated Hatred is very good. Cloak of the Scourge, which is in Nax, this is what I use. I use this. This is my quote-unquote mitigation cloak. Because it has a lot of stamina. It has base attack power, 30 attack power. And it has 1% hit. When you're wearing a lot of mitigation gear, you need to make up hit. In a lot of cases, you need to make up hit on your neck, your rings, or your cloak. This is a very nice cloak to have as well. But, again, it doesn't have the raw stats. So this cloak is not going to scale as well with world buffs and with raid buffs, like Cloak of the Fallen God will. If you need to hit, though, you need to hit. You need to stay at hit cap. So, but like looking at rings, you know, I've talked to folks about, you know, with QSR, I feel like QSR is pretty much widely considered to be a best in slot ring. And if we look at it, like the best ring in the game is Band of Unnatural Forces for DPS. And it's also the best threat ring in the game The major downside of it is it doesn't have stamina. Now, most rings are not going to have a lot of stamina. There's a few exceptions, but you're not going to, for the most part, you're not going to have, 20 stamina on a ring, plus other great stats. So if you look at QSR and Circle of Applied Force, they only have 8 stamina and 9 stamina. Unless you're using like one of these more defense-oriented rings, like the ones that drop Angelista's Touch, which drops in AQ. This has some stamina and some strength, and it's got 17 stamina, pretty decent, but strength is the only threat stat on there. And then there's another one, Ring of Emperor Veclor, that has agility, armor, and then decent stamina and defense. But the DPS rings, the quote-unquote threat rings, like Akirio's only got 10. Don Julio's, a lot of FuryProt warriors use Don Julio's and start out with it. It's a great ring. It's only got 11 stamina. Like, you're not going to have a ton of stamina from your rings, right? But if we look at, so you're not going to lose, so where in Boof or Band of Unnatural Forces, you're not dropping off a lot of stamina. But it doesn't have any raw stats at all. What it does have, which is extremely rare, is all 3 of the stats that we like, which is hit, crit, and attack power. Usually, rings and necklaces and trinkets will make you choose. Very rarely you'll get 2 out of the 3, but usually you're picking, one or the other. So if we look at it like compared to QSR has 5 strength, which gives you 10 attack power, and then that 5 strength and that 10 attack power does scale with world buffs, and then it has 30 attack power as a bonus. That part will not scale. So it has 40 attack power, which is 12 less, but 10 of that attack power does scale with world buffs. And I haven't done the math, but I'm just making the point that QSR drops an MC. Where this drops compared to where QSR drops is, this drops off Lotheb. There's a lot of guilds that struggle with Lotheb still today. And then it has the 8 stamina and the crit, so the crit is the same, and it doesn't have the hit rating. So QSR, while it's not as good as Band of Unnatural Forces, it is damn close. It is a damn good ring. I would say it is, for FuryProt, top 3. I always have QSR on unless I'm full mitigation. If I have to pick which ring I'm taking off versus QSR and Applied Force, I take Applied Force off. Because QSR is just that good. Now, Applied Force is not bad. It's not a bad ring. You could make the argument, and because if you look at the stats, 12 strength, so that's 24 attack power. So that's less than the 40 QSR gives you, but that 24 attack power, all of it is affected by world buffs. 22 agi, that is a little bit more critical strike, and the agi gives you dodge. So every 20 agility, 1% crit, 1% dodge, and then you get 2 armor for every point of agility. So that's 44 armor, and then 9 stamina. So like technically, world buffed, Applied Force is better than QSR. QSR is just, what happened? QSR is just a ring that I really, and usually I do have world buffs. Like if I die on a trash pack or on a boss or whatever, then Circle of Applied Force is not as good. But world buffed and raid buffed Applied Force is technically, like, these are probably the best 3 rings in the game right here for FuryProt. Master Dragon Slayers is okay. If it was crit instead of attack power, or excuse me, if it was crit instead of hit, it would be very, very good. But again, it's limited by its lack of raw stats. Like, it has 48 attack power, but that's it. And that's a good chunk on a ring. This is a best in slot ring for Lotheb because it doesn't have crit on it, because on Lotheb you want to reduce your crit due to the spores. But I see a lot of people wearing this ring, and this is easy to get. It comes from Kill a Nefarian. But I don't ever wear this ring ever as a tank. I just don't like this ring. For one, I don't really need to hit, because you can tell the rings that I'm wearing, QSR and COA, don't have any hit on them. but I would rather have crit than the attack power. That's a lot of attack power, but I like to have it. You want to have flurry up as often as possible. You want to be critting as often as possible. A Curia is very nice. I've got it. It drops in MC. There's a ton of competition for it. And again, you got to look at, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, 2% hit. Yes, but it's also 16 agility. So if you convert that, that's 0.8% crit and 0.8% dodge for FuryProt. Well, for warriors, but obviously DPS warriors don't care about dodge, but FuryProt does. And then 32 armor. I mean, that's really on top of the 2% hit. That's a really great ring. I would still be using a Curia if I needed the, sometimes I do pop it on if I need the hit. I've got enough other pieces. Like if you're struggling to get a cloak that has hit on it, or boots that have hit on them, or whatever the case may be, a Curia is a great choice because of the raw stats. I mean, the 2% hit is great, but if it didn't have that agility, and it was just more stamina or something, like it probably wouldn't be as good. So like Karaji Fury, this is another ring. So like comparing Master Dragon Slayers to Karaji Fury, this is hit and this is crit. Like Karaji Fury is the better version of Dragon Slayer's ring. The thing I don't like about this ring though is that, again, it's just flat attack power, and when you compare it to QSR, it has the exact same attack power value as QSR when you're unbuffed, when you don't have any world buffs. So it's exactly 40 AP. It's 1% crit, and then you're giving up 4 stamina. So Karaji Fury, technically, that's more of a DPS ring. At first, I wanted it for FuryProt, and now I don't really care if I get it or not. I'll probably pick it up eventually for DPSing, but again, QSR is just better, I think. I would rather be wearing QSR as a DPS. And then if I'm DPSing, I'm probably going to swap out Applied. I mean, I probably actually would just leave Applied Force on, to be honest. Applied Force is a pretty good ring unless you don't have any buffs. Julio's, this is a very good ring, especially how easy it is to get. Like, it does require Exalted, but you can do this outside of it. You can do this pre-raid. You can do this when you're level 51, I think you can get an AV and start grinding. You're probably not going to have any fun at that level. Or no, you got to be 60, don't you, to get in that bracket. But either way, this is, I don't want to say it's easy to farm, but it's farmable. Like you can't go farm Band of Acuria. I mean, you just got to do Molten Core once a week forever, and wait your turn in line. This, you don't have to really wait for anybody but yourself. So it's a very good ring to pick up early, but it suffers, again, from not having raw stats, and so it doesn't scale that well. But it does have hit and crit and attack power, which is extremely rare to have all three, like we said. Every ring we've looked at so far only has 1 or 2 of those stats, except for Boof. So Julio's is a very good ring, but I'm not going to go farm this. Now that I've got all these other rings, QSR, Applied Force, Band of Acuria, I'm not going to go farm Don Julio's. I never did get Don Julio's, actually. Because I wasn't FuryProt in the beginning when I first started tanking and when I first hit 60. I was looking more at Deep Prot stuff. Another great ring that I feel like is slept on is this Bronze Dragonflight ring, and I say slept on from a FuryProt standpoint because I don't see a lot of warriors wearing it. I see them wearing the Nefarian ring, Master Dragon Slayers, and which is fine. I mean, it's not right or wrong. I mean, even according to this threat EP, it's assigning. It says Master Dragon Slayers is the second highest, but that's because this calculation is overvaluing hit because I'm only at 6% hit. A lot of these sims and whatnot will overvalue hit because they want you to be hit capped, and you don't need to be because of the Heroic Strike bug. So this ring, 24 agility, that's humongous. That's over 1%. What does that end up being? 1.3, I think. Let me look real quick. Bronze Dragonflight, 1.2. So it's 1.2% crit, 1.2% dodge, 48 armor, 13 stamina, 1% hit. Amazing ring. But again, you got to be able to do that, calculate. Like looking at the agility, you might go, well, agility, that's a rogue stat, that's a hunter stat. No, like you want, if you're a FuryProt tank, you want agility. You want as much agility as possible. You don't want to like only go get agility, but if something has agility on it, like a ring like this, and it has crit and it has hit and attack power, like those are all the stats you want. You want to have agility. This ring is awesome. And again, it's down here on the list because of my hit rating. Let's see here. So let's look at a couple. Let's go to my. So I'm going to look at a couple rings. Yeah, let's look at a couple like quote unquote mitigation rings. A lot of people love Ring of the Dreadnought. I'm starting to come around. So there's a friend of mine in game who doesn't use Dreadnought, doesn't like it, doesn't wear it for mitigation. Ring of the Dreadnought is the best mitigation ring in the game when you're talking just about pure mitigation. And when you open this up, it's obviously it's at the top of the list. But it has 0 threat stats on it, which again, as FuryProt, even when you're wearing your mitigation gear, you still need to be able to hold aggro. You don't want to be wearing 8 out of 8 or whatever it is, 9 out of 9 tier 3 and a shield and a weapon that has defense on it. Like, you still need to put out threat. Ring of the Dreadnought has a metric shit ton of stamina, a ton of defense for, I mean, that's a lot of defense for a ring. There's not, most rings have 6. This one has 7, but nobody ever gets that, or they shouldn't. Emperor Veclor has 9. Angelistas has 6. Heavy Dark Iron rings 5, 7, 6. Yeah, most of them do not have 10. So Ring of the Dreadnought is great if you're going, in my opinion, if you're going to go for an uncrittable set, which the reason I have it on this set right here, which is my Patchwork Thaddeus main tank set, is because I'm trying to get uncrittable, which is 440 defense. If I'm going for my, yeah, let's look at my mitigation set. My mitigation set, I'm at 435, so I'm close. I'm probably going to swap this ring out for the other, for this ring, Angelista's Touch. Or Ring of the Godslayer, which I don't have yet. Ring of the Godslayer is, you might not think about this as a mitigation ring, but again, I think that's because it just has these 2 stats and that's it. When you're thinking about mitigation, like, so Emperor Veclor has defense, stamina, and agility. And it does have 100 armor, but, you know, whatever. 100 armor is, when you're at 17k, 100 armor is not a huge deal. Angelista's Touch is dodge, defense, strength, stamina. It looks like a lot of stats. I mean, it's got 4 separate stats on there. This one has 4: armor, stamina, agility, defense. Ring of the Dreadnought, stamina, tons of stamina, 1% dodge, 10 defense. On paper, it's great. One of the best mitigation rings in the game, like I said. Godslayer, though, 27 agility. That equates to 1.35, so 1.35% crit, 1.35% dodge, 54 armor, so about half the armor of the Veclor ring, and 17 stamina. So it does give you the crit, and it gives you the dodge, and it gives you a little bit of armor. I don't think it's as good as the Veclor ring because it doesn't have defense on it. They're basically the same stamina. The Veclor ring is very good, but like Angelista's Touch has dodge and strength. Again, that's 22 attack power, but it doesn't, there's no crit in there. If I put this on, that also gives me 1% dodge. Gives me actually more than 1%, 1.3% unbuffed. So if you're using Angelista's Touch and you swap in Ring of the Godslayer, you're getting more dodge, more crit, but you're trading off that 22 attack power, and you're trading off the 6 defense. So Godslayer is a very good FuryProt ring, and it is a, like, again, it's I don't want to say it's like a sleeper mitigation ring, because I do see a lot of endgame tanks wearing it. But I feel like a lot of tanks that come through a Q40 are probably not going to be looking for this ring. And you probably should pick it up. These two rings off of one of them's off the Bug Trio, one of them's off of Twins. You should probably pick these up so you have them. But Godslayer is a very good ring. It's got, those are some fat raw stats on there. Mark of Cthulhu, let's look at some necks. So these are going to be mitigation based, but again, we're talking, you know, if you're talking about flat out mitigation, this has no, other than hit rating, you could argue hit rating is a threat stat. Other than the hit, this has no threat stats on it. A ton of defense, 1% dodge, 24 stamina. Let's compare it to what I wear in my more balanced set, which is Sadist's Collar, which drops off of Gothic. Same stamina. Same exact stamina. You don't have the 10 defense, right? I've talked about this in other videos. You don't necessarily care about defense as a FuryProt warrior. You get defense by default just by adding in your, like when you go 4-piece tier 3, for example, you're going to obviously increase your defense rating, but you're usually caring more about your hit point pool, your health pool. The only time I really care too much about defense is when I'm fighting Twins because of Unbalancing Strike, and when I'm fighting Patchwork as the main tank, and then obviously on Thaddeus because I'm trying to reduce crits as much as possible. But Sadist Collar, this is a good balanced neck. It's got good mitigation through 24 stamina, and it has 1% crit, 20 attack power. If you don't need the hit from the Mark of Cthulhu, this is a very solid choice. But again, it's not going to help you get more defense rating, and it doesn't have any dodge on it or agility. You know, it has the 1% crit, but it doesn't have any of the other stats. Presters, I'm going to stop on this one because I do see FuryProt tanks pick this thing up. It has a ton of agility on it. I'm pretty sure this is best in slot for rogues and for hunters, at least until Nax it is. And again, I don't know all of the different classes best in slot lists. This drops off Nefarian. This is a good, I don't want to say that this is a good neck, but let's swap it in because I want to compare it to something else. Okay. It has double the agility of the Onyxia Tooth Pendant, right? But Onyxia Tooth Pendant has 1% crit. So Presters is basically giving you, so every 20 agility you get 1%, right? Presters has 30. So 30 divided by 20. So Presters is giving you 1.5. So 1.5% crit, 1.5% dodge, and 1% hit. That's very, very good. Onyxia Tooth Pendant is giving you, instead of 1.5% crit, 1.5% dodge, it's giving you 0.5% through agility of crit, 0.5% dodge. But then when you add that to the crit it gives you, that ends up being 1.5%. So the crit is basically a wash. And it has 9 stamina, where Presters doesn't have any stamina, and it has the hit. In my opinion, Presters is not enough of an upgrade for tanks to be taking that. Every time I see a FuryProt tank wearing this neck, I cringe inside, hoping they did not take that from a rogue or a hunter. Now, hunters don't do great DPS, but rogues do. They don't do as well on some fights as Fury Warriors. But as a tank, I don't think you want Prestors. Onyxia Tooth Pendant, you get it early on, you wear it forever. You wear it. I wore mine into Nax until I got Sadist Collar. You can wear this neck into Nax. 100%. It's an amazing, for where this comes from in this day and age, killing Onyxia, we do that with like 15 people. You know, if you have undergeared or new people, 25. You don't need 40. And there's pugs all the time for Onyxia. You know, Presters, and this is kind of the reverse of what I've been talking about, right? Like, oh my god, 30 agility, that's a huge raw stat. Yeah, it is. But the Onyxia Tooth Pendant, when you add everything up, it is very close to Presters. Let's see. Pendant of the Karaji Guardian. This is another one of my necks that I like, and I see people pass on it all the time. It drops off Prophet Scarum, which is the first boss in AQ40. This is a very good balanced neck. Sadist's Collar. I wear Sadist's Collar quite a bit. I wear it more than I wear the Pendant of the Karaji Guardian. Let's just swap this real quick. Sadists. Pendant of the Karaji Guardian. Where'd it go? So if we look at them side by side, so this was the Pendant of the Karaji Guardian is more AP. It's 24 instead of 20, and it's affected by buffs. It's 11 agi, which is a 0.5% crit versus 1%. 17 stamina versus 24, and then it increases your defense. So they're comparable. They're not that far off of each other. I like them. I like having more stamina and more crit from Sadists. I will wear Pendant of the Karaji Guardian though in sets of gear where I need because you not only do you get that 0.5% crit, you get 0.5% dodge, which Sadists does not give you. So I do use Pendant of the Karaji Guardian in I think my Mitt set. So this one was Mark of Cthulhu, I think, or maybe it's Thaddeus. Nope. Patchwork Soaker, maybe. Nope. Okay, I got it in one of these sets here somewhere. Maybe I adjusted these sets. I know that in game I use it. But it's a decent. Oops. Let's switch back to. This is a decent neck. I mean, if you don't have access to Nax yet, and Mark of Cthulhu is very good. Mark of Cthulhu is the best. It's like Dreadnought Ring. It's the best mitigation neck in the game. But Pendant of the Karaji Guardian is still pretty good. 0.5% dodge, 0.5% crit, 24 AP, 17 stamina, 6 defense. It's pretty solid. And just looking at it, like I said, you might think, oh, there's only 10 agility, 11 agility, 12 strength. That's not a lot. 12 strength is 24 AP, unbuffed. I mean, that's probably close to 30 or a little bit more than 30. That's more than Sadist is 20 attack power. That drops in Nax. I mean, that's a decent amount of attack power on that neck. So the point of the discussion is just to think more about when you see raw stats, like just stop for a second and like do the math is basically what I'm saying. Royal Karaji belt. Here's another belt. I see people wearing this all the time. It is a very nice belt. I'm not going to say that it's not. Dreadnought is garbage. Hot garbage. And I've talked about this in other videos, but you don't want... I don't even wear this in my full mitigation set, as you can see. This is my mitigation set. Karaji belt, and then gloves of determination. The gloves and belt of tier 3, don't even get them. Like if you're in an SR guild in Nax and it's not costing you points or whatever, I still would not try to get them because they have block chance and block value, and they do have strength, but that's it. They don't have a lot of the budget on this belt is wasted on stuff that you just don't care about as FuryProt. And then you might say, well, what about when you're wearing a shield? Okay, so on Lotheb and on Saffron, and when you're soaking for Patchwork, those are the 3 fights. And even then, those 3 fights on Lotheb, you need to be generating a lot of threat in the beginning because no one has a spore buff yet, or spore debuff, whatever it is. On Saffron, you need to generate a lot of threat so you can. The faster you kill these bosses, the better off your healers are and the better off your rate is, because then it's less time for someone to make a mistake or something to happen for other people to die. So where you can, and I'm not saying, take this neck off and put on Storm Rage's Talisman of Seething, but you need to have it balanced. So like if you look at Royal Karaji Belt and look at Dreadnought, the armor is very similar. You're losing 40 armor somewhere in there. You're losing strength. You're losing some AP. So you're losing 7 strength. So that's 14 attack power you're losing, but you're gaining 13 agility, which Dreadnought does not have. So that's a 0.5% dodge, 0.5% crit, which this belt does not have dodge on it. The defense is basically the same, and you're gaining 1% parry. Parry is better than block because, yes, block keeps you from getting crit or crushed, but you can shield block basically on demand. There's really not a lot of point in having block chance beyond like 30%. Like I'm like right now in this set of gear I'm at 20% block, and I'm perfectly happy with that. I'm not gonna put on Stylines. I'm not gonna put on what's the other one? Glyph of Deflection, is that it? Yeah. Glyph of Deflection increases your block by 3. Stylines, I think, is 5. Yeah, I'm not putting that shit on. Like, that's garbage. You don't want that. You want threat. Like, this is plenty of mitigation. This is plenty. If you're wearing tier 2 and you're fighting Saffron for the first time, like, how did you guys make it to Saffron with your tank in tier 2, first of all? You're going to be building up, this set over time, obviously. But, like, the Dreadnought belt is just bad. It's not good. It's just bad. You don't want it. It's not good for... has a little bit more mitigation if you just look at the raw mitigation stats. Actually, it looks like this sim or this formula is saying that the Karaji belt is better. So it's supporting my argument, even though I don't know how it's being calculated in the background. But again, like, if you look at it, like, 24 AP, 13 agility, that's what, 1.1%, or, 0.6% crit and 0.6% dodge. Same thing with the gloves. Dreadnought gauntlets. Block and block value. Anytime you see a piece of gear that has block and block value on it, put it in the bank. You don't need that unless you're prot. Even if you're prot, like, wear some... You need more threat gear than anybody if you're prot. Steadfast Determination. These gloves are baller. Like, they don't have as much stamina. They're missing 7 stamina, but they have more strength. And they have almost a full % crit and a full % dodge. And they have 9 defense. These gloves are very good. It's a very good blend of threat and mitigation. Let's see. Yeah, I'm probably going to end up swapping that out. Becklor for Angelista's Touch. Yeah, so this is my mitigation set. This is not my... And again, this mitigation set, I wear this on Lotheb. And even then, I start off dual wielding. Saffron, I start off dual wielding until I get a threat lead, then I put a shield on. And then Patchwork Soaking. Let's look at that set. Because this set, for Patchwork Soaking, I still got the Ring of the Dreadnought. This is probably wrong. This is not pulling from my in-game sets. These are sets I created after the fact. You don't want your defense rating high when you're Patchwork Soaking because Hateful Strike cannot crit or crush. So defense rating is useful for miss and dodge only. And I'm at 25% dodge in this setup. Again, block chance, nobody gives a shit. You're wearing a shield not because of the block, you're wearing it because of the armor. And the reason I have 2% block on my shield, I'm sure someone's going to say something about it, is because the other options are just as bad. So I'm basically picking one of 2 shitty options. Also because right now I am spec'd into both Anticipation and Improved Shield Block. I do have a spec, and I'm doing it this way because we're doing some Lotheb testing that I want to try to take as little damage as possible, so I ended up respecking and picking up both. Anticipation usually is a garbage talent. You don't want it. The reason that I'm picking it up is because of a set that I'm building that will make me uncrittable while dual wielding without a shield on. And in order to do that with the gear that I want and the threat that I want, I have to pick up Anticipation to make up 10 defense rating. So, yes, shield block chance is a terrible stat. On your shield, it's fine. If you don't want to have that and you want the 7 stamina, whatever, 7 stamina usually isn't going to make or break the world. But this is decent to have if you don't have improved shield block, because that first charge of shield block will get eaten up pretty quickly. So I could just as easily put 7 stamina on there and I wouldn't care. It wouldn't bother me. This is also this is decent when 5-mans as well, because in 5-mans, when you're throwing a shield on and you got 50 things hitting you, all right. Sorry about that. I had a technical difficulty. So the block chance is decent for 5-mans as well. Like if you're running, whatever, Strat Live or Strat Dead or whatever 5-mans you're running. I mean, 7 stamina, it's basically the same thing. It's RNG versus tiny bit of stamina. So another thing I wanted to touch on just real quick, just another piece of gear example. And trinkets, I normally don't wear... there's not a ton of trinkets that have raw stats. I don't even know if there's any trinkets that have raw stats. They usually are all bonus, unless it's like fire resist or whatever. There's not a lot of trinkets that have strength and agility on them. They're usually just going to give you attack, power, crit, whatever. But Girdle of the Mentor, I don't know why. I don't know why this is. But I don't see a ton. So the end game guys I do, but I don't see a ton of... And Girdle of the Mentor drops off of Resuvius, which is not a terribly difficult fight. A lot of folks will go into military and go kill Resuvius and then leave and not finish military, because he's one of the easier bosses, because it doesn't matter. Like if you're in an AQ40 guild and you guys can clear AQ40, you can kill Resuvius. You don't need a geared out tank because the ads tank him. You need priests that have certain levels of spell hit. So you can farm Girdle. You can farm him, and he drops Iblis, which is a best in slot weapon for Fury Warriors for offhands. It's very good main hand for FuryProt, and I think it's best in slot for rogues too. I think for offhand. But Resuvius drops Girdle the Mentor. This belt is like I don't have Royal Karaji belt yet. I actually have these sets all built. And again, like I said, they're not based on my in-game gear because I don't have Kiss of the Spider yet either. This is kind of what I'm planning on having. I don't have Karaji belt yet, but I do have Girdle of the Mentor. I don't ever take this belt off. No matter what set I'm using, this belt stays on. And if you look at it compared to Karaji belt, like Karaji belt is really not that much more mitigation. I mean, according to this, formula or whatever, it's saying it's 31 points less. But if we look at it, Mentor has more strength, which is not mitigation, but it has more attack power, so more threat. It has more agility, which is threat and mitigation. It has 1 less stamina, so basically the same stamina. It has 20 more armor, and then it has hit and crit. So, and if we look at it compared to Dreadnought, Dreadnought's 554 armor, 26 stamina. This is 536 armor, 21 stamina. Mentor is, in my opinion, like the best, not just best in slot for FuryProt, best for every situation. For patchwork soaking, like again, here I'm wearing this for patchwork soaking because this is what I'm, probably going to aim for. But in today's world, I wear Mentor. For my threat set, I wear Mentor. For Patch Thaddeus, I've got this because, again, I'm working on hitting 440 defense. Max hit. I don't really use that. 4-piece. Where's my 4-piece set? 4-piece tier 3. I wear this a lot in Nax. Girdle of the Mentor. It's just an amazing. This belt and the Steadfast Determination, these are like. Obviously, Goas are better for threat. Gauntlets of Annihilation. But Steadies are very, very good. I wish they weren't green because they look horrible. But Mentor, I feel like there's just not a lot of people that talk about Mentor being as good as it is for FuryProt. I mean, it is. I really don't care if I ever get Karaji Belt. When Steadies dropped, I spent points on them immediately and took them. Like, I'll take those max points, no problem. Because before that, I had tier 1. Which are still great gloves. Gauntlets of Might. These are great gloves, but they don't have any agility. They're great because of the how much strength they have and the hit rating that they have. And they do have a little bit of stamina. But Steadfast are just awesome. Girdle of the Mentor is awesome as well. So, anyway, point of the video, point of the discussion is, you know, when you see something with raw stats, especially when you're planning ahead, you know, because I've heard the discussion before of like, oh, Cloak of the Fallen God, is that good? Oh, Circuit of Applied Force, is that good? When you actually sit down and do the math and you figure out what all stats you're really getting out of that, like, then you compare it to other, you know, other things in that slot, and you're like, yeah, it's really good. Like, I mean, I know this Shrouded Dominion, this is a DPS cloak, right? This is not. You can use this for FuryProt for sure. I don't see a lot of warriors using it for FuryProt. This is a best in slot DPS cloak from Nax, but it has 1% crit, 50 attack power, 11 stamina, compared to. And none of those except for stamina scale with buffs. So the 1% crit, the 50 attack power, those are static. Cloak of the Fallen God is 26 agility, which is more than 1%. I forget what I said it was. 1.35. That was Ring of the Godslayer. Let's do the math real quick. Calculator. Let's do, so it's 26 divided by 20. It's 1.3. 1.3% crit and 1.3% dodge. And that scales with world buffs and raid buffs. 11 strength, which is only 22 attack power, so it's half the attack power, but the attack power does scale, so it probably gets up close to maybe 30 attack power, and 15 stamina. So it's less attack power, but it's a little bit more crit. So Shrouded Dominion is better for FuryProt. I would say, like, you know, especially if you don't have world buffs, it is. But Fallen God is like a good balance of everything, and it has a little tiny bit more stamina. Even this cape off of Azure Ghost, I don't see anyone ever wearing this cloak ever. This can be easy to get if you can get into a group that farms those world bosses. On my server, there's a group that farms the world bosses every time they spawn, and you can get in. Unyielding Strength is great for FuryProt, again, because of the raw stats. 30 attack power from Strength. 0.5% crit, 0.5% dodge. Concentrated Hatred. Great cloak. So, okay, if anyone has any questions or concerns or thoughts or like to see different videos, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one.